This is Dr. Karen, and you are listening to the Facto Leaders podcast, where I help pediatric therapists become better leaders so they can make a bigger impact with their services. On this show, I'll share up-to-date, evidence-based practices, my own experiences, and guest interviews designed to help clinicians and educators feel more confident in the way that they serve their caseloads, so they can help school-age kids grow up to be successful, kind, well-adjusted people. Hey there, it's Dr. Karen, and welcome to episode 90 of the De Facto Leaders podcast. I am so excited for this episode today. Today I have a very special guest named Merlin Anderson, who is actually someone that I've known from my local running community for, I think, almost 20 years. I think it was 2004, so that would be 18 years that I have known Merlin. So Merlin is somebody who I thought would be a great person to bring on the show because a lot of my listeners are people who work in the school systems, who work in private practice, and who are providing services for kids in their communities. And I talk a lot about being a good leader in your facility. And I've also mentioned the idea of being a leader in your community as well. As you know, a lot of the kids on your caseload might need to access community resources. And it actually helps you be a better leader, help your clients more if you can be aware of the resources in your community. And what's even better is if you feel like you aren't making the impact you want, if you were to take initiative and start something in your community to help kids. Now, I know that a lot of times people don't necessarily do that, partly because they don't know where to start. They feel like they're just one person, they can't make a difference. It just feels really overwhelming because there are so many needs and everything that they do just feels like a drop in the bucket. I wanted to bring Merlin on because he has actually started something in his community, in the community that I live, that has actually generated over $200,000 for local charities that support kids. And it all started with people literally just putting some money in a bucket. It all started with just 5 people who decided that they wanted to give back to their community, and it grew from there. And they've really been able to do some amazing things. And I know that sometimes in your job, it can feel like you're not making a difference. And I just wanted to share an example of someone who, through consistency and persistence over time, has been able to make a difference in the community and really emerge as a leader. This is not the only way that Merlin has been a leader within the community. As I mentioned, he is an active member of the running community, so he's always out volunteering at local running events. But today we're going to talk specifically about what is known as the ABC Run. So if you are a member of the running community in Bloomington Normal, Illinois, you probably may have heard of that. But if you are not from this community, then I invite you to listen in and use this as some inspiration for ways that you can give back to your community and find other ways that you can support kids outside of just your direct therapy services that you may be providing. And I know that sometimes it can feel a little bit overwhelming to think about going above and beyond, or even just create your vision for what you might want to do. Creating that vision and executing on different leadership initiatives like this is actually part of what I do in the School of Clinical Leadership. The School of Clinical Leadership is a year-long program that helps pediatric therapists to be better leaders, whether it be finding the time to do some kind of a community service project like the one that we're going to talk about in this episode, or whether it be being a leader on your team and getting everyone on the same page, doing different staff or parent trainings so that you can see better generalization with the skills that you're working on with your students. All of that falls under the umbrella of leadership, and it's going to be so important to you making an impact with your services, with your talents, and with your expertise. So to learn more about how to become a member of the School of Clinical Leadership, you're going to want to go to drkarendudek-brannan.com/clinical leadership. Again, if you are a speech pathologist, psychologist, social worker, or other school professional, and you want to learn how you can be a better leader so that you can help your students generalize and so that you can provide comprehensive support across your students' day, then go to drkarendudek-brannan.com/clinical leadership. So now let's go ahead and get started. And please enjoy this interview with Merlin Anderson. So today I am joined by Merlin Anderson. So thank you so much for being here with me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So I thought we could start off by just having you tell us a little bit about yourself, like who you are and what you do.
Well, I am retired, so I don't do too much in the way of productive work, but I while away my time binge watching shows and thinking about how to plan for the next ABC run.
Yep.
And recording information about the ABC runs that have been done and reporting on them.
So you've been a runner for a long time. So obviously ABC runs, we'll get into what that is in just a few minutes, but running has always been a big part of your life, right?
Since 1969.
Okay.
When I went to college, a lot of my entertainment was getting in pickup basketball games and things like that required several other people.
Mm-hmm.
And when I graduated, I didn't have access to a gym, so the easiest thing to do was to put on those high-top basketball shoes, Converse All-Stars, and head out the door and go for a run.
So did you run competitively in college or?
I tried it once. My junior year, I decided because I was doing a sedentary job and going to school full-time that I was getting out of shape. And I decided to go out for the college cross-country team because I thought that might be cool, run across golf courses and whatnot. And that way I'll certainly get in shape. And I thought I had saved enough money that I could afford to be not working so much and I could spend some time doing an actual collegiate activity.
So you hadn't run competitively at that point, but then you tried out for cross country as a college junior then.
Yeah, it was like a Division II school is now. It was Mankato State in Minnesota, kind of like an Illinois State, only in most sports they're Division II level, not Division I. I spent most of the time being one of the many runners, but did get into the top 7 and was selected to go qualified time-wise to go to the Nationals and finished in the middle of the pack, last on our team at the Nationals that we sent.
That's still pretty impressive because a lot of people get into running and sports when they're, even if you get in it when you're in high school or college, it's hard to pick up. So that's pretty impressive that you were able to get that far just trying out as being a junior in college.
I guess maybe it was the making up for lack of talent in the pickup basketball games by working extra hard. That was my game, was hustling and running and playing defense. So I think, but I did go through the levels of improvement. That was fascinating because I could see the rewards of hard work. I eventually went back to it once I graduated from college and needed a form of exercise. And this is something I didn't have to do with others, but you could do with others. But I can do it anytime I want, anywhere I want.
Yeah, that's what always seemed really appealing to me about running. I was a swimmer and a figure skater, and they made us run when we would get back to that first 2 weeks of school in the high school swim team season. And I remember they made us run like 2 miles, which is, way less than what we have done before in some of the runs and some of the group runs in town. But I just remember just dying because our coach was a triathlete. So she wanted us to run as well as swim. But then I ended up running when I was in grad school, actually, and decided to run a marathon as my first race, which probably isn't the best way to get started with it. But that is actually how I got to know you, because I joined the Lake Run Club after that. And you're an active member still within that community. So do you want to talk a little bit about, I know that, so you got into running when you were in college, and it's something that you went back to just as kind of a hobby, a sport, and you've been really active in the running community, just arranging different volunteering events and things like that. Can you share a little bit about some of the things that you've done in the community, just running in general, before we get into the specifics of ABC runs?
Well, before we got into charity runs, we went to, just a lot of fitness running, and then running with friends, and then with running with friends, getting interested in some races that I heard about, and then doing pretty well in races, which was encouraging. Also having to work harder than I ever thought I'd have to work, because, everybody suddenly turns serious and suddenly they're going so much faster than you usually run.
Yeah.
And you either get left behind by the ones you usually run with, or you put forth more effort because you got to finish feeling like you gave it a good shot.
I remember feeling very accomplished when I finally was able to keep up with you.
Oh yeah, and that was fun. The times of running together when we're in a race, and usually you try to get ahead of someone who's running with you, but you want to run with them for quite a while because they really help you keep your pace going, rather than, if the field spreads out, you kind of feel sorry for yourself with how bad you feel, and it feels so much better to run with someone and you can keep up the same pace. So I'm just running with you long enough so that you can get me closer to the finish line so I can try to push ahead later. But
that's exactly, there's a picture of us on Facebook somewhere running a 5K, and we're together, but then you pulled away from me at the end. So I think it was Evergreen one year.
Yeah, but you got your revenge later in another race.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know that you've always been very active with just, like volunteering at the finish line, hosting runs at your house, and just, arranging things for people and bringing people together. And that eventually led to what you refer to as ABC runs. So can you share a little bit about what ABC runs are and how they got started?
Yes, there's a group of friends that I had that were training for a marathon, and I once mentioned to Meg, we do some crazy things out there. In the wintertime, we may be throwing snowballs or stopping for snow angels, do some snow angels, and we're kind of acting like kids. So maybe, I never do anything for kids other than play with my own children and grandchildren, but I don't really do anything for other kids. And actually our own children, Meg does most of it. And I, like a typical guy, I'm the guy that fires them up by playing and getting them rowdy and, causing trouble in that way. And I thought, well, there's one thing I can do, seeing as I'm not going to be a counselor, I'm not going to be an educator of young children, but we could raise money for them. And we're so lucky to be able to play like children. Maybe every time we go out and play like children, what if we threw a little money in a bucket and give it to a worthwhile cause that serves a local purpose, like the Baby Fold for adoption services and family counseling services, and there are other organizations that provide preschool education to families that may not have the funds to pay for the preschool education that they need. And just a wide variety of needs in the community. And Meg said, well, that'd be a good idea. And so it just started informally, and just a few of us at the first one. and it grew by word of mouth from there. Uh, when Meg invited some of her friends and convinced me to start not at 7 o'clock in the morning, but say 8 o'clock, something a little more amenable to more people, and that and plus she had more friends than I had, so naturally it grew by word of mouth when she spread the word, and then it grew a bit more when she started the tradition of making coffee cake, and other people would bring things, and it became the potluck.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember the church potlucks, only this is sort of the running potluck with a free will offering. The events are free, and any amount is great, which encouraged the main purpose is we enjoy getting together and running, and anything people want to give is great. And sometimes you get, most everybody ends up throwing something in the bucket. And if they forgot to bring their billfold or the checkbook, that's fine. Catch us later, or double up on the next one. And we had a core group that really liked doing that.
And so what does ABC stand for?
Adventures Benefiting Children. The thought was, with the friends, we were being childlike, not childish, but we were being childlike in that we were having some fun while we were running, and we were going to different places like Parklands Foundation to run in the park, sometimes adding around the park, sometimes forging our own trails, finding ways across the creek. And so they were kind of adventures, and we'd go to different places. We decide on a different place each time. And when we first started doing ABC runs, we were doing that. We would hold them at, first one was at Parklands, and it was for Timber Point Outdoor Center, but it was at Parklands, and we'd done others at Cumlaw Park, Dawson Lake, and Funks Grove, Sugar Grove Nature Center down there. And then when we did some for charities that are in the community, we found it worked really well to say, have the baby fold host them. They'd have a room. We can come back in if it's raining or weather isn't good. We have a place to meet. For some of them to be in town, hosted by a family at their house, or like at the baby fold, or at one of the local parks where we had a little bit of a shelter. And we found that most people like the road option, only some people like the trails. So when we go down the Sugar Grove Nature Center, we have a trail option and a road option.
Yeah, I like that one because there are a couple options. And so it is sort of a choose your own adventure. You can show up and run as much as you want. You can donate as much as you want. You can, contribute what you want to the potluck.
And eat as much as you want.
Yep. Yeah. So for people who are listening who have never been to an ABC run, which, there are a lot of people who are not local listening in, it's literally just a group run and everybody throws money in a bucket, but it goes towards a specific charity that you've arranged beforehand.
Correct. And 100% of what goes in the bucket goes to the charity because it's a potluck. Different people are bringing food, and there are no t-shirts to buy. We have had some t-shirts, but those are sponsored. But we've only had 3 t-shirts in 175 ABC runs, and those were to mark specific milestones. So we in general, we don't have t-shirts to spend on, and we don't spend on it because they're completely sponsored. And we don't have trophies. And of course, we don't rent porta potties. There are no expenses. So 100% goes to the charity. So that was kind of the core group. On the other hand, we don't publish, we don't time people. There's no results. So if you're looking for a competitive experience, we're not it. So our participation isn't quite as high as the big events. But on the other hand, we've held 8 per year, up to as many as 12 per year of these ABC runs. So in total, it amounts to a bigger event.
Yeah. I think that sometimes people feel like if they're going to do something, it has to be this big organized thing. Like if you think a charity run, you think an organized 5K with timing, with, the chips and the t-shirts and all the swag that you get at a race and official results. But this is literally just you just, get people together and run. And obviously you just have to do the work ahead of time to, have the relationship with all of the different organizations that you donate money to. But just the idea that it can be something as simple as getting together with your friends and putting money in a bucket and donating. So I really like that, because I think that a lot of times people feel like they don't get started with something because they think it has to be this huge thing, when really just being consistent and doing it over and over again can make a big difference. So I know that you are a numbers guy. Do you know how much money you've donated to local charities over the time that you have been doing ABC runs?
For the 175 ABC runs, the grand total is something like 206 or $207,000. I've got it right here. Oh, 206,341, $206,341. And I think I looked that I say it's a core group. We usually have 30 to 40. Sometimes we have as few as, say, 20 at an event. And we've had ones with, more than 40. We had more than 100 at the 100th ABC run, because kind of pushed that one.
Yeah.
And we had one that had over 200 people once, that was for a child with cancer. And so that was publicized among the different schools by the teachers in the schools, and got lots of parents. That's counting all the people that attended, not just the runners. But that was an unusual case. But usually I'd say there's typically 30 to 40 people. And there happens to be 48 people that have done at least 30 of those 175 ABC runs.
Wow.
So it's a core group, but we've had, I think, more than 1,700 people that have run an ABC run. Some people are interested in a single event for a particular charity, and then that would be the only one they attend. And others come repeatedly. We have one person that's attended 100, that's not, other than me or Meg, that attended 115.
Wow.
And we have a half a dozen that attended at least 100. So it's a core group, tends to be a family group, and that many of the participants, both husband and wife, attend, and sometimes the kids come along. Of course, I'm counting attendance.
Yeah.
I keep attendance, and I keep the total dollar amount, so I know how many people attended each ABC run. Generally, how many people that did not attend but wish they could have been able to attend, they're out of town, sent their contribution in, and it all adds up. For that charity, of the 13 times we've done it, it was the second highest in financial contribution, even though only 29 were able to attend.
Yeah, I think that was the one where there was the thunderstorm looming.
Yeah, I guess the thunderstorm held off, and the wind wasn't as strong as they said, but just when the last person was finishing, the ones that went, people went 4 or 5 miles, the ones that went 5 miles, it's like their last couple blocks, it was starting to rain and the wind was picking up, and y'all got inside the house before getting totally drenched. So it held off and we did fine.
I got in the house. I think if I'm remembering correctly, which one you're talking about, I was at that one and I just missed it, but I know there was one person who got stuck in it for a couple of minutes. But I think the coldest one, I went to one, I think it might have been in Leroy, maybe, by where they did the Tri-Shark on the old Tri-Shark course. That's is that Moraine View State Park?
Moraine View?
Yeah, it was 5 degrees. So we did not loiter around and socialize that much afterwards because there wasn't an indoor facility for that one. And I know there are some where it was really hot. One, when we were running in the snow, there was the streets weren't plowed and it had just dumped on us the night before. So that was definitely an adventure.
There were snow angels at that one.
Yes, I'm sure
there were. One of my
were.
favorite photos is of the snow people doing the snow angels.
So what kinds of things have these organizations been able to do? I know some of them have other funding, but some of them don't have a lot of funding sources. So what kinds of things are these organizations able to do with the contributions from the runs?
Well, the Seedling Theater is a good example of an organization that did not have much other funding. The director of the Seedling Theater was covering many expenses out of her own pocket. In other words, she was just so very devoted to it. What a great program, and was really had no financial support. And we were the main contributors. She's been getting other contributors. Some companies will make a contribution. And by the way, those that are State Farm employees can submit to a State Farm match, or if their company does a matching gift program, if there's other companies that do that. So, and I don't count those in among the ABC runs. That's the corporation, but the charities, ever since companies started doing that, are getting a little extra boost. But for putting on the plays, children with developmental disabilities and adults with developmental disabilities for the Seedling Theater that are involved in that program. Oh, they were renting sound equipment so they could buy some of their own sound equipment. They have, amazingly, even though they're a 501c3 organization and they're doing this educational and charitable purposes, they need to pay a pretty good fee for the rights to put on the plays that they're putting on. There's no exemptions for charitable organizations, as far as I know, or at least I suppose everyone would file for a 501c3 if they wanted to avoid copyright fees for putting those on. So they have those fees that are annual, and there's equipment that they needed. So they've been able to do a lot with the contributions that we've given them. Sugar Grove Nature Center, which has been around for a long time and has funding through their Sugar Grove Foundation, there is extras that they can get, such as they needed about $1,200, I think, to get some software and equipment where when the kids go out and get like little slides, like biology, slides, or like little chemistry slides with of things that they can find in the creek, or leaves, or things they can find in the woods, and they want to put them under the microscope, that they can connect that to a computer, to a projector, and save that, and we're able to do that as a little extra. So sometimes they'll let us know what they were able to do. Heartland Head Start used 1 year's worth for purchasing some software for art purposes, and they demonstrated the capabilities of it by making us a very nice thank you poster, which
that's cool.
Next time we met for Heartland Head Start, we displayed that. And so, when we do one for St. Jude, where that's going. That's going to their incredible program where, people don't pay St. Jude Hospital for it, when they go there for the childhood cancer cases. And so that's going in, an organization like that, you don't know where your specific money went, but it went for some, incredible needs. The stories are quite heartwarming. And they have more expenses than that. So, doing one for an individual child helps the family cover some expenses that they're going through beyond the medical expenses. And those have been very successful when we have done ones for individual families. And not just St. Jude, there's Children's Organs Transplant Association, which will dedicate all the money that you raise for that child. And if you are so successful as enough to raise more than they need, which would be rare, but if you're that successful with your fundraiser, the money will go to another child that is in need. So it's And then there's one for a service dog.
Oh,
So, child with some disabilities needed a service dog, and we did one for that family. So but most of the time we do ABC runs for. Right now we're doing 8 ABC runs a year, and we have a core 8 and we haven't done any for an individual child in quite a while. But in total, we've done 30 different charities if you count the ones for the individual child as a separate one.
And so some of these, for example, the Seedling Theater, it's, focused on some kind of organization that does enrichment for kids in the community. That's they do theater programs for individuals with disabilities, and then Sugar Grove Nature Center. I know that's a pretty popular field trip destination for a lot of the local schools because they've got they're out in the woods and they can do all kinds of different youth programs out there.
Yes, they do a lot of youth programs. And of course, one year it was purchasing more books for their library. Something is, and like the other time it was the equipment and software for the biology slides.
Yeah, I think that's, there's a lot of different programs in the community. And so I know that you have your regular ones. So you made this comment the other day when we were getting ready for this interview, just about, I think you mentioned, you might not be Jeff Bezos making this, $1 billion contribution, but do you remember when we were talking the other day about that?
Right. It's not billions, it's not millions. It's amazingly, though, added up to a couple 100,000 so far.
Yeah. It's pretty impressive what you can do when you just do something consistently and when you can get a group together and get support that way.
Yeah, we're not a big group. We're a small group. Like I say, it's typically 30 or 40 people at each event. And giving typically, you go through the bucket. One thing is I don't keep records on individual contributors.
Yeah.
In other words, in fact, I will not tell you if we get a nice check for $500 or something from someone is one of the things that's in the bucket. I never release names so that I don't know who gave what, but I know who attended. So I'm kind of like the teacher who takes attendance records.
Yeah.
But I don't like their grades. I would never divulge what grades they had to anyone else. So we want to make everyone feel comfortable. So those that want to throw $10 in feel very welcome to come. And those that want to put in a check for $25 or $50 feel very welcome. If we get a big surprise, like somebody tosses in a good amount, I will occasionally have the unusual ones. I started by contacting them and saying, the point is being, encouraging a social activity where we're giving as part of it, and we want to stimulate participation. And I haven't thought about it, about having a gold, bronze, or silver, or platinum, different organizations. I know that might produce more $1,000 givers or something. If you recognize them, and maybe it's a good thing to recognize those that make a contribution like that. So I say, when I write a report up on each one of them, I say, would you like me to mention or do anything? And I stopped asking the question to people that give a lot. I just say thank you, because each one of them has said, no, I would rather it be anonymous.
Yeah.
And not now in the future, their own personal preference may be that it not be anonymous, but after asking enough people, I've decided that's typically what they want. The bigger givers is that they don't want that to be the focal point. And that's how we do it. I don't keep track. I do know in general about what percentage of all the contributions come from larger contributions, but I don't put names associated with them. Like gifts of $200 or more account for about a fourth of our giving.
Wow. That's a substantial amount.
Yeah. So 75% is coming from the people that are throwing. You see a lot of on cash, you see a lot of $10 bills and $20 bills.
Yeah, people just open up their wallet and they're like, "What's in here?"
Yeah.
Here we
And
go.
anything
Yeah.
in checks, I guess sometimes you can get multiple $50 ones, but
hmm
typically 20, 20, 30, 40, 50 is a typical. So in other words, that's our audience. Is it's a free will donation. It's like throw something that you got in your billfold into the bucket.
hmm
Like if it's cash, and assuming that the small amounts will add up over time, and they have, just like when you go out for a run. Well, if you ran 4 miles that day, that doesn't sound like much, but if you went out 4 times a week and you did that 50 weeks a year and you did that for 50 years, that was a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, it
So
is.
we've been doing this 18 years now. We've completed our 18th year.
Wow. Wow. That's pretty impressive. I think the nice thing too is there's also not a there's not there's you don't take the time, so you could go out and walk a mile around the block if you wanted to, or you could go run 10 miles if you felt like it. There's also not a certain pressure to do a specific course, even though there's usually some courses mapped out for people.
Yeah, a recommended course, but in the announcement, I would say the course is such and such,
hmm
but uh, turn around at any point, make it an out and back to run as much as you want.
hmm Yeah. People do kind of, usually we have a couple groups. People kind of find their separate packs, but it always is kind of a choose your own adventure.
I used to mark all the courses, but then when GPS became more popular, before the race, I'd say, y'all have GPSs now. So I tell them where the course goes, but I wouldn't have every mile marked.
Yeah, I do remember that. It was a little bit more curated back before people had watches to tell them where to go. I remember too when we are out in the country doing sort of an impromptu adopt a highway kind of a thing where people always just throw their garbage out of their windows. So taking a trash bag and picking up the trash on the country roads, and you would get that bag pretty full after 4 or 5 miles, which
Yeah, we had a few of us doing that at a couple of the events. Usually we don't, but if we do head out in the country, you occasionally see those beer cans that are
mm-hmm.
somehow made their way out into several miles from town.
Yeah. um they're kind of gross to pick up, but I guess it's better than leaving it there on the road. So what do you, if people want to get something started, if they're kind of looking to get involved in their community and they want to start something like this, I mean, what are the steps to just get started if they wanted to just start something simple like this?
Well, this wasn't very planned. We had
Mm-hmm.
5 people attend our first one, and it grew by word of mouth. And then eventually, I had an email list for those that wanted to be on an email list, and then the posting on Facebook in under the Lake Run Club Facebook uh, section. So I'd say just get started.
Mm-hmm.
This is something. After I started this, a couple of years after starting this, I saw something about giving circles as a
Hmm.
term. Like people with a certain interest it could be a reading club or something that get together on a regular basis, and they decide to associate free will offering with whatever they do, or they form for a specific purpose of supporting charities in the area, and they're a group of friends that get together for coffee
Mm-hmm.
and just say, well, once a month on our get-togethers, if they get together once a week, how about once a month or 4 times a year? uh, let's take a suggestion from one of us as to some charity that you know about, that you vetted and know that's very important in this community, or it could be beyond this community. But my focus was Central Illinois, and of course St. Jude with the St. Jude affiliate in Peoria. I count that as local.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Seedling Theater is very local. The Baby Fold is very local. Heartland Head Start is local here. So, I mean, Children's Home and Aid, if the Adopt a Family, which is the most recent ABC run we did, that's local. But I count St. Jude as local, even though they're quite national, but
yeah,
they affect us locally.
Right. Yeah. Because we have the big run that comes through. So do you
just doing what you do?
Yeah. I mean, do you have to, I know that a lot of the organizations that you donate to are officially registered, but do you have to register anything or do anything officially, or can you just get started?
What I did was I decided not to form an ABC run 501c3 charitable organization. There's that option to do that, but what we do is we operate as a intermediary. In other words, we're like a small group of friends going out for a run, and we decide to do a free will offering, and we deliver the money to the charity. Most of the time we have a representative from the organization at our event. Even if we hold it, say, at Tipton Park, we ask a representative of the organization to be there and maybe to greet us and say a few words and to receive the donations afterwards, which if they're not a runner or a walker, maybe that has them hanging around a little bit longer than they might have if they just showed up to greet us and thank us. But I think it's worthwhile. And obviously when we are at, say, the Baby Fold and they're hosting it, well, they have to open the doors for us.
Right. Yeah.
And they're there. So in other words, we're just the organizer of the event. And so
it would be similar if you just wanted to make a donation to a charity. It's just a group of you making a donation. It's not
right. Yeah. It's kind of like we're a giving circle, and we decide to do a collection among a group of friends, and we send it in as one donation. And say, in fact, that's the way it was kind of first worded when we didn't have a representative there, and we sent a note saying a small group of friends got together and decided to pool our donations and to donate. And I think the reason we did it the first one was for Timber Point was I saw an article in the paper about how they were building a new meeting room there, or building, and we decided to donate for that. Of course, the amount that we donated between five of us was probably quite insignificant when it comes to the cost of building.
Right.
that building,
but every little bit counts.
And so we had a little bit to kick in. And that's how we were. It was a small group of friends collected this, which is very unimpressive because, like I say, we've had many individual contributors contribute a lot more than we collected on that day. But it became more impressive later.
Well, you have to have the first time doing anything to get it going, to get it to that point.
In fact, several ABC runs now, individual ABC runs, generate more than we did for the whole 9 ABC runs the first year.
Oh, wow.
Right.
So building momentum is key.
Yeah, I think, the first year we had like $1,200-1,300 in donations for the total of the 9. They're all very small, not many people contributing. Maybe a $260 day was one of the high points of the first year for one individual charity, and it all added up to maybe $1,300. So one piece of advice was, don't be discouraged. You're in this for the long haul, and if there's anything to it, it will take off. A few years after that, we had grown quite a bit, and the local chapter of the American Marketing Association somehow awarded us the Nonprofit of the Year award, Nonprofit Marketer of the Year, which was funny because we did no marketing other than the enthusiasm of fellow runners that would hear about this and bring their enthusiasm and their participation and contributions to the events. So it wasn't like a marketing plan was laid out. It
Yeah,
was like
it just happened. It
something that
materialized.
happened.
Well, you have a Facebook page and you invite people to the event, and there's some good pictures up on the page. Where can people go to if they happen to be in the Bloomington Normal area, or if they just want to learn a little bit more about ABC runs? Do you have a specific ABC Run Facebook page, or?
No, it's just the Lake Run Club Facebook page.
So you can join the Lake Run Club Facebook page to learn more about ABC runs. All right. Well, thanks again for doing this.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thanks for asking me.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to share a couple things that came up in conversation after we stopped recording. There was one point in the conversation when Merlin mentioned that the very first year that he was running ABC runs, they generated about $1,200 for the full year. And they were doing about 8 events or so per year, as he said in the episode. But now every time they hold an event, the average of what they make per event is more than what they made that entire first year. So I just wanted to point that out. This just started with something so simple as just a couple people getting together and throwing some money in a bucket. Literally a drop in the bucket, which is how we sometimes feel our therapy is, but I promise consistency pays off. And there really are a lot of ways that you can make things happen, whether it be at work or whether it be through volunteer activities, when you approach it with an attitude of resourcefulness and creativity. So what I would ask you to do today is, if you felt inspired by this episode, please leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts, and feel free to share this episode with your friends. And finally, if you know someone who is a leader in your community or your facility and has done something amazing and you think that they have a great story to tell, or maybe if you've done something that you're really proud of, then I would love to share that story on the show. All you need to do is email me at talktome@drkarenspeech.com and let me know, and we will consider you for an interview on the De Facto Leaders podcast. Again, that's talktome@drkarenspeech.com. For now, we'll wrap up, but thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.